Yeah, so welcome back to the Dynasty Hot Seat, the only Dynasty show out there that is a certified inferno. This week, we're looking at week 2, starts, sits, what should you do? And hey, am I cheating? Who knows? Let's find out. Yes, hello. Welcome back. Super special edition today of the Dynasty Hotseat because we got my main man, Alex, the at Dynasty Guru NFL, back on the show. And if you're thinking that guy looks a bit familiar, he was the first guest on the show all the way back 6 months ago. Alex, it is amazing to have you back on. And how you doing, my good friend? You're in, the first outdoor hot seat guest we've ever had, so it's great to have you back. How you doing?
Yeah, pleasure to be back. Yeah, this isn't a background, so you might see a deer jumping around behind me.
So if it gets too close, I'll let you know.
yeah, good to be back.
Brilliant. Yeah, so Alex is here just to run us through some tips for week 2 coming up in the Dynasty season, and then we're going to dive deep into 2 rosters just like we did last week. Only very special. We're going to look at my roster, and we're going to look at Alex's roster from the very same league. So that's going to be really interesting. And, we'll maybe have to delay this episode until everyone's set their roster in our league, Alex, so we'll not let them in too much, right? So the first little bit I have to ask you is, going into week 2, what is your advice for fantasy players, dynasty players coming into this specific week in fantasy football?
Well, there's a couple of gems. I've been thinking. It was quite easy to see which quarterbacks are still getting into the groove. So if you're looking at the waiver wire for defenses this week, maybe have a look at the QBs they're up against, who had a poor week last week. For example, Seahawks defense against San Francisco. Even though the Bears pulled off a win, it could be a nice opportunity to put in the Packers. More than likely going to get 4 or 5 sacks on Justin Fields. Could be the difference maker.
Yeah, absolutely love that tip. And just like defenses, are fairly flexible. You can drop them, you can pick them up, and just finding that matchup, not just against like a team, but really zoning in that quarterback. And obviously you get so many points for getting these sacks, and it's a lot easier to kind of predict how many sacks will happen than how many like interceptions will happen. So I think, basing off sacks is a great first tip for everybody. So you're thinking, get the Packers in. Packers are playing the Bears, so hopefully a couple of sacks on Justin Fields.
I think the Packers, even the Cowboys, the Bengals let up quite a lot of sacks on Burrow. Loads of interceptions. 5 interceptions. I doubt that will happen twice in a row. I'd say Packers would be my favorite if they're available on the waiver wire.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. And you got any more tips for us for week number 2, Alex?
Yes, absolutely. On the flip side, those teams that started off great, you're in the early stages of the season. Don't be afraid to take a risk on starting players on those teams who are in form ahead of players. You might, if you have a stacked roster and you have your go-to guys and you've seen that a team are in form, stick those guys ahead. You can afford to take the risk now.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, just before, bye weeks or anything like that happen, don't just, and this is something, Tom Strachan, who was on last week, was saying, is like, don't just set your lineup according to the sleeper predicted points if you're on sleeper or MFL or wherever you're on, because very often they're completely, false, right? They're not really what's going to happen. And just go with your gut a bit more. And if you think some person, is only registered to score 5 points or whatever, but you think actually they can get 10 plus, then trust your gut, trust your instincts, and stick them in there. So I like that as a second tip for sure. And Have you got
especially
guys
especially on IDP, I would say.
Yeah.
You can't trust the sleeper predicted.
No, because everyone's getting 10 sacks and everyone's getting an interception and everyone's
exactly.
like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, let's leave it there, and I think I'm sure we'll touch on a few more as we go along.
Yeah, my tip for everyone this week is don't be overly afraid to go out and splurge a large amount of your fab on a player, because at this stage you can kind of be fairly sure, or at least you can see who is carving themselves a role, and there's always that player every single year. The Cordero Patterson, the Elijah Mitchell, there's always that running back, right? I can't even remember there was definitely somebody 2 years ago. Mike
James
Davis,
Robinson.
Right? James Robinson, Mike Davis, all these guys. There's always that one player that's on the waiver wire and makes a huge run of it. So don't be afraid to go out there and spend quite a bit of that money on it just to make sure that you get them, even if their name's Rex Burkhead, which it might be, which is very odd to say. So yeah, love that tip. Yeah, exactly. Love those tips, Alex. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to dive in. We're going to have a little look at a roster, and we're going to look at my roster to start with, Alex, and then we'll switch to yours. So let's add the roster in here, and you can see here, this is, a very controversial roster, Alex, because I've just sent out a tweet yesterday. I did not expect the reaction that I got. There's well north of 200 replies now. Basically, I was told that I'm cheating, right? And it's not fair that I've got Ronald Jones and Devonta Foreman starting at running back, and I should go out and I should be trading for other running backs. But let's have a look at the rest of the team before we get into that chat. So, a quarterback, I've got Justin Herbert, who's playing Kansas City. I'm guessing you're going to say he needs to stay there, because my other options are Tua, Wentz, Deshaun Watson, who I can't play.
It depends if you are cheating or not.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I think I might. Deshaun Watson seems like a good player quarterback there, right? The NFL might turn around that suspension.
Make your mind up. Yeah, no, Herbert's. I think he's. I'd love to know who the 1% that aren't starting Herbert are.
Yeah.
In any format.
Yeah, like just those guys who've got like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes on their team for some reason, right? That's
or it's the minute, that weird group of people who only like playing Sunday matches. They only like their players if they're playing in the Sunday games.
I did not even know about that. Is that?
Yeah.
Thing? Wow.
So they can maximize the full red zone experience.
Brilliant. Well, maybe we could do an experiment with that 1 week, but I'll not now because I'll be accused again. So we'll not put that in. So I've got Herbert in there. Now the big talking point about this team is my running backs absolutely suck, right? They're terrible. I do have someone IR or injured that I can't play that are pretty good. But basically with this team, last year, a year and a half ago, found out Deshaun Watson, he's not going to play. Sorry, over a year ago now. We found out Deshaun Watson isn't going to play. I looked at my roster. I went, I don't think I'm going to be able to win with this current team. So I thought, right, first thing I need to do is start rebuilding. And the sensible place to rebuild is starting at the running backs, right? So I sold Austin Eckler. I got picked up Cordero Patterson. I sold Cordero Patterson. Any running back I could sell, I sold them. So now I'm left with Ronald Jones, Deonta Foreman. Who else have I got? Let's see. Jerick McKinnon, J.K. Dobbins, who's injured, and Elijah Mitchell, who's injured. I've got none on the taxi squad. At the moment, I've got Ronald Jones and Devonta Foreman locked in. If Dobbins is fit, obviously I'll lock him in. But the only thing I have to say is I should probably fit in Jerick McKinnon, you think? Or what are you thinking?
No, I think. It's half of one. It's half a dozen of one and six of the other. With Jerick McKinnon and Ronald Jones, doesn't really matter. I'd probably dump one of them and look to the waiver wire. Mind you, looking at the waiver wire on this league, it's very, very thin in the running back position. Brandon Bolden
Yeah.
might be a nice acquisition there. I think he was on the field for quite a lot. Probably around the 30% mark last week. So it's worth looking into.
Brandon, but I mean, yeah, you're right. It's not a king's ransom there. It's just like I can't do too much, and I don't know what your opinions are on this. Maybe I know you're obviously in the league. You don't want to say too much, but
no. I'm very candid.
Yeah. But I think being told that I have to go out and trade for a running back to make my team better is complete fabrication. It's not how the game is played, and I don't have to, and you can't make me, basically.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, here's another good way to look at it, right? Your options are poor. Let's not be around the bush. The guy you're up against this week has got Eckler, has got Jonathan Taylor, has got Jacobs as a backup. He's got, he'll be starting Russell Wilson. He's also got
and Justin Jefferson.
He has Diggs and Jefferson. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he also had Jamar Chase.
And he does.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was up against him last week, and you'll see my team, and there was a gaping hole between the points that I scored and the points that he scored. Yeah. So if there's any week that you can afford to have a weak bench, it's the week you're not going to win anyway. So
yeah.
That's partly why in week 1 I took a risk by I say we'll probably touch on my team, but maybe we'll do that a bit later, and I can tell you who I just to put into perspective, I scored 141.4 and he scored 216.42.
Wow.
So I mean, even with my what can you do? So if he's going to hit 216 points on you, doesn't matter if you pay Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook, you're still not going to beat him.
100%. Yeah, it's hard to beat, and that's who I'm up against this week, and I don't expect a victory, but it would be quite funny as well if I beat Matt. Right?
It would be very funny.
Yeah. So I'm hoping for.
I would love it if you beat him.
So we've got a wide receiver. Now this is kind of what my plan was. I thought I'll sell these guys off, and I'll just go out and I'll get as many of these young wide receivers as I can, because I want my team to be young. I want them to be ready to compete in a couple of years. So I went out, I got Jerry Jeudy, I got Michael Pittman Jr., and let's have a look at the other wide receivers. I got T. Higgins in here. I've got Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley I picked up as well, obviously not as young. Got Michael Gallup, Paris Campbell, Chase Claypool, and Devonta Smith, along with a couple of guys on the taxi with Elijah Moore, Jalen Tolbert, and Sky Moore. Who do you think is going to have the best week out of those guys? Jeudy going up against Houston, Pittman going up against Jacksonville. Those are the guys I've gone with to start with, or is anyone else standing out to you there? Higgins at Dallas, Godwin at New Orleans, Gallup.
Higgins. I think he's probably going to be game day decision, given that he was in concussion protocols. Yeah. So I'd probably keep him where you have him in the flexes. Perfect for now. Yeah. Again, that's the sleeper, picking who they think is a weak pass caching defense, etc. Yeah. Jeudy against the Texans. The Texans defense played really well against the Colts. They were really unlucky not to win. Yeah. And same with the Jags. Again, if Trevor Lawrence could throw a touchdown, if ETN didn't have butter in his gloves, I think it would be a different story in that game.
Gloves.
But I think they all had butter in their gloves. I'm sure Zay Jones had another one. Anyway, so of Pittman and Jeudy, I would probably start Pittman ahead. Just thinking the Jags will turn over the ball a lot more. And he'll have more chances to be on the field. And I think just having a quick check now. So Michael Pittman was on the field for 98% of offensive snaps. So there you go. You can't argue with that. He's a shoo-in for a starter. So you have Godwin on the bench. He's probably another who would be leaning, but again, picked up an injury. Hamstring. Gallup, I would say, is also probably not going to play. I would probably pick Chase Claypool ahead of Jerry Jeudy. And that's because I think the Patriots are going to struggle this year.
I think so.
I mean, it was very clear that the Dolphins were not going to lose that game.
The Patriots were a bit of a shot. Who would have known, Alex, that not having an offensive coordinator who's ever called an offensive snap before could end so badly, right?
Well, yeah, but no, I mean, yeah. Maybe they're tanking. Who knows?
Maybe the Patriots are going to start Junta Foreman a running back. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and you touched on Chase Claypool there. Obviously, a guy you're pretty high on, or at least have been in the past for sure.
Yeah,
that was interesting the way he was used, right? Almost like a Deebo Samuel-esque role last week for him. That was quite interesting. Right?
And I think in the first season we saw him in that sort of gadget. Again, Claypool was 92% of offensive snaps last week.
Yeah.
So he had 6 rushing attempts for 36 yards, 6 targets, 4 receptions, not for a great amount for 18 yards.
Yeah.
But in his first season, where he scored, I think it was 10 or 11 touchdowns, he was kind of used in a bit of a gadget mode, and I think he had 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns in his first season. Last season, I think people kind of worked him out a little bit, and he was covered a lot more. But I would say that he's definitely the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh. And so with people maybe double covering Deontay Johnson or looking to pick up Freiermuth, Claypool's got to be the one who's free. And I say in a game against the Patriots, who are on a down, I'd say I'd probably be more inclined to start him ahead of Jeudy.
Yeah, and kind of like, you're obviously going to touch on it a little bit when we look at your team. I kind of need to go for the slam dunk here, right? And Chase Claypool is a guy that has scored 4 touchdowns in a single game before. And if anyone is going to explode and blow up out of the wide receivers I have, it's probably going to be Chase Claypool there. And the only wide receiver we didn't touch on there is someone, alarm bells are kind of ringing a little bit. It's Devonta Smith. Incredibly talented player, but he's got a quarterback that won't throw the ball to him, so that's never good, right?
There was a really interesting when the game was happening. There was a very interesting comment made by the pundits on I think it was Fox, and basically every time he threw the ball to AJ Brown, he was like, Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball to a man. Like, he is so big, and he's such a bigger. If you look at AJ Brown next to Devonta Smith, he's a monster. And so, like, if he's the one you can see the most of, he's going to go to him every single time. And Devonta Smith, I mean, I don't think he recorded a point. Yeah, he didn't make a catch, right? Yeah.
No, 4 targets, 0 catches.
But again, he was on the field 96% of offensive snaps.
Yeah.
So, and this is one of the things that maybe the Eagles have in their locker, is that they can afford not to use him for a whole game. And maybe that's why AJ Brown had such a good game. Obviously, from a fantasy manager's perspective, that's not ideal. But if he's up against who the Eagles got this week, is it the Vikings? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
So the Vikings defense played really well last week. The secondary is improving. He didn't play last week, but Lewis Sign, he'll come in this week probably. And it's kind of, I wouldn't play him or look to play him this week against a strong secondary, but the next week against Washington, maybe, because even though Washington have a good secondary, AJ Brown's their number 1 target, and probably Dallas Goedert second. So that might be the game where you see him unleashed for two touchdowns, for example.
Yeah.
But again, that's sort of me trying to understand the Eagles' offense after 1 week.
Yeah, exactly. And if anything, is like last year, the Eagles' offense is going to be incredibly hard to try and figure out as they trotted out Boston Scott and Josh Gordon or Jordan Howard, sorry, and this, hard to figure out. So we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah, I think did they have 4 different rushing touchdown? No, they had 4 different players who had a rushing touchdown: Hurts, Gainwell, Scott, and Sanders.
Yeah, you're right. Sanders, well, good for Miles Sanders, by the way. He finally got in the end zone after a year. He didn't get a single touchdown last year. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, I was pleased for him.
Was it Fournette who had that 2 years ago, where he didn't score? I think he had something like 1,200 yards rushing or something, but no touchdowns.
That's crazy. You kind of touched on one of the players there. You mentioned Dallas Goedert. Now, at the minute, I do have Dallas Goedert locked in as my tight end. Now, in this division, for whatever reason, Alex, I've got about 20% of the tight ends in the league, I think, in this roster. Yep. So I've got a lot. I've got Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst, Irv Smith Jr., Adam Troutman, Tommy Tremble, and Dalian Bellinger on the taxi squad as well. So at the minute, I've got Dallas Goedert in. I've got him in because he is the best player, but I'm leaning and looking a little bit at Gerald Everett and Hayden Hurst as well. What do you think?
Gerald Everett's an interesting one. He definitely, he looked very much at home playing for the Chargers, and I think with was it Donald Parham? Donald Parham, he's still not back in full health, and Trey McKitty, kind of the other tight end on the roster, he's really the blocker.
Yeah.
So he's the close target for Herbert, and if things go wrong during the play, he's the first guy he sees. So with the KC defense, Chris Jones started off really sprightly, shall we say? And they have a good, linebacker core. It might be that one of them gets too near too quickly, and Gerald Everett's the nearest guy to throw to.
Yeah, and Steve Spagnuolo at the Chiefs just loves to blitz as well, and I like the look of George Karlaftis as well at the Chiefs. He's looking pretty sprightly.
He's good.
Yeah, so it's looking pretty good for the Chiefs. So that's a really good point that Everett could be just the guy closest to Herbert at the time, and he might get some.
Yeah, and it's maybe just important to look at, because Goddard is playing against the Vikings, and last week they didn't really give up much to tight ends. Mind you, they were up against Tunyon and Degawar, and so it wasn't too much. But in total, it looks about 70 yards to tight ends. So. He's also a safe bet, and with Dallas Goedert again, he's one of those guys who could, like last week, pick up a really high score.
Yeah.
So
who are you going, Alex? I'm going to trust you, Alex.
I think Goddard.
You can make the choice for me.
Since we've decided that you're destined to lose the game anyway, you may as well take the risk.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
You could go with Everett, but I think Goddard has the capacity more to get 2 touchdowns in a game against the Vikings, more so than Everett does against the Chiefs.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll lock in Dallas Goedert. We got T. Higgins here in our flex. I mean, unless we want to put in, Jerick McKinnon, which I don't think we're wanting to do. T. Higgins at the minute, so long as he clears the protocol, I'm pretty happy with him in the flexer against the Cowboys defense.
Yeah.
And the last one is the super flex spot. I've got a couple of good quarterbacks here. Tua is there, Wentz is there as well for me to choose to throw in should I want. And I think I know what the answer might be based on our philosophy of just go for it here. I think there's one player here that has a very low ceiling, and one player that's got a very high ceiling but an incredibly low floor. But tell me if we're on the same lines.
No, yeah, you are right, but I say the Ravens defense really did a number on the Jets last week.
Yeah.
And Tua, you know, he's he has the reputation of being hit and miss. So he like you said, he could get you 30 points, but he could also get you 7 points.
Oh, I was talking about Carson Wentz. Like he's the exact same as was right. He's pretty much the same.
And the same applies for Wentz, but I think the game against the Lions is going to be a bit more open.
Yeah.
I say, as you saw, Detroit gave up 38 points last week.
Yep.
Most of that was on the ground, but Hurts threw for 243 yards, and I think if he wasn't, a running QB, that probably could have been 350. So Wentz is in probably for a good game.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking as well. So we'll get Wentz locked in, and I had to pick up Robbie Gould off the waiver wires because
because I own quite a good selection. And I think I own quite a good selection of kickers in this league. Yeah, I do.
Oh, do you? Oh,
yeah. Well, I have McPherson, Bass, and I also picked up Cade York as well.
He looked good, right? Oh, good for him! Like a debut, like.
I've picked him up basically just to piss people off like you.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'm furious, Alex. Absolutely furious with you. So let's do that, and nice and easily we can kind of transition over to see what your team was like, Alex. So let's have a little look. We'll go to league, and we'll pull up your team, and we'll have a little look at it. Now, I won't be able to change any of the players, but we can chat through them for sure. So let's have a little look.
Or maybe I can change them live.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that'll be cool.
Let's do that. I'll bring it up on my... Yes. Okay. I think
nice. I'm ready. So I'll run through the team while you load that up. So currently the starting lineup from at the moment is Matthew Stafford in a quarterback with Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb at running back. You got, Cooper Kupp and Mike Evans in at wide receiver. Absolutely fantastic. Pat Freiermuth in there at tight end. Brandon Ayuk and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the super flex spot. Staying true, Alex, because I remember this. Episode number 1 of the Dynasty Hotseat, when you were a guest, your top tip was, hey, you don't have to start a quarterback in your super flex spot. So 1 year later, staying exactly true to that, which is great. And you've got Evan McPherson in as your kicker. I was laughing at Bengals fans last week after McPherson missed. It was like, do you think he said, hey, can you believe we're about to beat the Steelers? And then he missed. That was fantastic.
3 times. I had the Bengals in my survivor. Oh, that was gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
To be out week 1.
Yeah, and then watching it to be like, oh no, it's fine. Oh no, it's not fine. Oh no, it's fine. And that's a hard loss to take. And on the bench, you got Jared Goff, you got Baker Mayfield, AJ Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Khalil Herbert, who I think is amazing, real like Khalil Herbert, DK Metcalf, your boy, you picked him up again. I thought you dropped him.
It was only Michael Strawn, yeah.
Strawn, sorry, yes, he had a pretty good game, right?
Man, I love this guy. He's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a few targets last week even as well, right? He was on the field a bit more than last year.
Yeah. He had 2 targets last week for 36 yards. But no, he's a deep sleeper, definitely.
Right. I picked him up in loads of leagues because I seen you added him. I was like, all right. So he's on loads of my taxi squads around the league. So I'm pretty pleased.
The guy runs track for Barbados, so he's quick. He's 6'5". He's a big guy. He's got the same sort of frame as Mike Evans. So if he gets a good run of games, or say if one of the key receivers in the Colts core, like Paris Campbell, doesn't really kick on, Alec Pierce dropped one in the end zone last week in concussion protocol. Yeah, he's one of 5 on that roster. So
just needs a chance. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So deep sleeper there for everyone listening and watching. And then you got Wan'Dale Robinson sitting there as well. Nice talent out of New York. You got Garrett Wilson at the Jets. Velus Jones, the only rookie to ever be a grandfather. You've got Cole Kmet, you got Albert O, Brevin Jordan, and then you got the kicker. You got Bass and York at kicker, and then you've got the Packers at defense as well. The team that you said they're the guys to go for. So let's start, Alex. Where do you want to start with here? Do you want to start with quarterbacks, or do I'll let you kind of steer this? Where do you want to start?
Let's lead with quarterbacks. It makes most sense.
Cool.
This is top of the list. So I have Stafford against the Falcons. I think that's it. Yeah. That's not changing.
That's money, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I have Goff against the Commanders and Mayfield against the Giants. All quite good matchups for QBs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Stafford's definitely a lock. It's just if you're going to go for Baker or you're going to go for Goff there. Goff is very safe, I think, especially considering the Lions have arguably the best offensive line in the entire NFL at the moment. So I think he's pretty solid. What's your percentage looking for your matchup? Are you sort of favored to win this matchup this week, or is it kind of a hit and hope week?
Let's have a look. I would think so. Yeah, I am, not by much, but it's against a team who finished, I think, last year.
Okay. So you've got a pretty decent chance of winning here. So you don't have to take too much risk. And I suppose it's up to you. Who Baker Mayfield's playing the Giants, did you say?
Yeah, I think the Giants defense has had a bit of a haul, and they look a lot neater this season. I'd be more inclined to go with Goff, who's more familiar with his offense as well. There were times last week against the Browns. I don't know if it's because he was playing against the Browns, but it didn't look like they're on the same page.
No, you're 100% right, and I would lean towards Goff there as well. That's if you're going to start a quarterback in your super flex, which you don't have to, which is always the best position.
I think I will this week. Last week. Just swapped him there. So Goff is now
it appeared on my screen as well. Oh, nice. Love it.
So Goff's in the Superflex. So the reason I had two receivers in I had two receivers in both the flex and the Superflex position was again because I knew I was up against the strongest team in the league and who has the potential to blow out. And I figured it was since I have Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown that if I put Amon-Ra St. Brown in, Goff will have the same points anyway. So may as well take the risk.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So worth the risk there. Definitely just try and go for it all. And I think right decision here, getting Goff locked in as your super flex player. Now let's go have a look at little running backs, will we? So you've got Dalvin Cook, you've got Nick Chubb. Who else you got? Let's have a little look and see. You've got AJ Dillon, Antonio Gibson, as well as Khalil Herbert.
That's right, yeah.
So at the minute you've got Chubb.
I have Pacheco on the taxi squad. I could release him.
You could. I mean, who knows? He came on sort of in garbage time last week, and he did all right. He scored a touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's have a look a bit further. So, I mean, Dalvin Cook, I think, probably after seeing DeAndre Swift do a number on the Eagles' defense last week, I think he's staying in.
I agree.
He didn't have, a crazy good game, but Dalvin Cook, when he's not having good games, still scores in our league here, which is PPR 13.8. Still 90 yards rushing, 20 attempts. He's always gonna, this is kind of this roster is kind of just to leave it. I don't really have to think too much about it.
Looks like that to me,
yeah.
Because I was going to say, see him with Nick Chubb, right, playing against the Jets. You can't not start Nick Chubb against the Jets, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I say, even though Kareem Hunt came away with the spoils, shall we say, last week. That's going to change from week to week, and I think it's all about tactics in the long game for a team like the Browns. Obviously, they beat the Panthers originally, but if the Jets look at that and they say, "Oh, Hunt's playing in the fullback position," or Hunt's playing, they're probably going to concentrate more on him and forget about Chubb.
Yeah.
It's just law of averages.
I did like that. I did like that from the Browns last week when they lined up Hunt in the fullback. That was cool, right? I'd like to see more of that from them.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way: going into last week's game against the Panthers, who have a notoriously bad pass rushing defense.
Yeah.
I think in the lead up to the week, it was like Chubb expected to go off and and he's going to be solid play and everything, and he did end up with, I think it was 140 or so yards on the ground, which is still great. It's just a shame we didn't get a touchdown. So like you said, he's probably going to be a very easy play again. Against the Jets team. The Jets they staved off the run quite a bit. I say that, and then I really remembered that Saquon Barkley just destroyed them.
Yeah.
So, I think if you just replace Barkley with Chubb, then there's no way Chubb's leaving that starting spot.
No. Yeah, you can see Chubb smashing through that defense up the sideline, just like Barkley was able to do as well. And if we move over to wide receiver, I mean, Cooper Kupp, obviously, I mean, we don't really have to spend too long talking about him at all. And the fact that he's also up against the Falcons, that just seems like a match made in heaven, right?
Yeah. So I've got a nice 1-2 punch there with him and Stafford. So that'll stay.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about that. You got the stack there with Kupp and Stafford. That's great. You at all concerned about Stafford? Obviously, he didn't look great against the Bills, but he's Matthew Stafford, right? He's going to be fine.
Yeah, it's just maybe some teething issues. I think they really miss Wentworth and that O-line.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll make the same mistake twice, being the team that they are. And the Bills probably have the best defense of the league, arguably. And they're up there in the top three, at least, with maybe the Steelers and the Ravens.
Yeah, the last thing the Bills needed was Von Miller being added to them as well, right? That's just he was so good as well.
Yeah, and I think one thing about the Bills, maybe this is a bit more pertinent for IDP chat, but they have 5 or 6 really good D linemen. They can just afford to swap them in and out so easily. And I think you can look at the D linemen like AJ Epineza, Ed Oliver, Boogie Basham. They only had about 26% each of defensive snaps because they're high quality and they can just rotate them in. Exactly, So especially towards the end of any game.
Yeah. Boogie Basham, by the way, what a great name. Just absolutely fantastic, right? Can't be. That's almost as good as Clinton Dix, the best name in NFL history. That is fantastic.
I'm sure his name's like Derek or something.
It's always something like that, right? It's never exciting, but I'm gonna call Boogie. Okay, mate, you do whatever you want to do. And then you got Mike Evans
Carlos.
up against
his
New
name
Orleans.
Is Carlos. There we go.
Carlos Boogie, right? There you go, Boogie Basham. Now, Mike Evans obviously going against New Orleans. Now, on the other show, I do the Wild Card Rewind show, which looks at NFL, every single week, not from a fantasy perspective, just on a review. My co-host Hannah brought up a really, really good point when we're making our picks, and it is the New Orleans Saints have got Tom Brady's number. He cannot beat the Saints when he's at Tampa Bay. Does that give you any pause about starting Mike Evans?
I actually hadn't had a chance to set this lineup, and Evans probably would have come out.
Okay.
No, it's something that I've noticed, but it wouldn't have been the catalyst. I think it's more the injury for me that concerns me.
Yeah.
I say with he'll probably be up against Lattimore as well. So they did lose Gardner Johnson to the Eagles, so he'll be a big loss in that secondary for Saints, but I think it's a safer play to maybe look to one of the guys who is either in my flex spots last week or to the bench.
Let's have a little look and see what you got. So you got, Brandon Ayuk is there, who's playing up against the Seahawks, and then other receivers you got available. You have got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was there. You've got your boy Michael Straight. How am I pronouncing that again, Alex? Sorry.
Strawn
is there. Strong. And then Wandale Robinson, Garrett Wilson as well there. Velus Jones too. Is anyone standing out for you in particular there?
There's DK Metcalf as well.
Oh, DK! I didn't even see DK Metcalf.
Yeah. So I think again, referencing the slog match between the Commanders and the Lions, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's probably a shoe-in to take his spot this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get him.
And I think we'll just do that swap now.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll even appear on my screen. Wow, well done, Sleeper, by the way. Right, this is on my screen that's happening, and Alex is updating it on his phone, and it's just switching right away. Like that's impressive.
I haven't even changed it on my phone yet.
No. Amazing. Telepathy. That's like the new Sleeper feature, right? Fantastic. Yeah. So we got Amon-Ra St. Brown locked in. Pat Freiermuth is sitting in as your tight end at the moment. They're up against New England. I guess you want to keep him there. We kind of spoke about New England earlier being not the best run organization at the moment. Are you thinking Pat Freiermuth's pretty much a lock?
Yeah. I took a wee gamble in a couple of leagues last week and started Brevin Jordan, but then OJ Howard took his touchdowns.
Yeah, which nobody saw coming. OJ Howard never scores the late touchdowns, right? And
Cole Kmet scored a dud last week. I think he's one target, no reception. No receptions. Albert O again had a bit of a mixed game. I think it's clear he's going to be targeted by Russell Wilson. I think he really likes him.
Yeah.
But
every time that game popped out, I was watching the highlights of that game, and every time I watched it, Russell Wilson was throwing to a different tight end. I'm like, how many tight ends are on this roster?
Yeah, the fullback Beck, he was turning up as tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So, didn't help again. I was like, throw to Albert O.
Come on.
Yeah, so I think Freiermuth's shoe in for this week.
Yeah, I would agree. And then the last spot you have is you got Brandon Ayuk starting in at the moment against the Seahawks. And then you got the rest of your bench to kind of choose from there, including maybe like standouts like DK Metcalf, I suppose, is there. And with Ayuk, I suppose Trey Lance is the only worry with that. Do you think he's going to be able to perform? I mean, last week, it's kind of hard to take anything away from last week because it was a monsoon game, right? It was like just the pitch was waterlogged. Yeah. So are you at all worried about Trey Lance? Or are you thinking he should be fine?
No,
Ayuk should be fine.
I think they'll both be fine. In the long run, I mean, they're not going to be top 5 in their position, but they're going to be solid. And in games where they've got positive matchups, maybe when they're at home as well, they could win you games. So I say what's probably important here this week is I can probably afford to take a risk again.
Yeah.
Given that probably likely to win this matchup as well. I could slide Evans back in the flex. I could keep Ayuk, but he's on the late game, so I don't want to miss out. If, for example, if Evans is healthy and Lattimore goes down or something, I don't know. Then also probably inclined to lean towards Antonio Gibson in that flex spot.
He looked pretty good, right?
He looked very good.
Yeah, Gibson. Obviously, everyone worried about Gibson. Preseason, then he comes out and looks pretty good. That's gotta feel good for yourself and other Gibson owners, right?
Yeah, I think I had him in most of my leagues, and I was just like, I'm gonna hold. He's my guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no, he did. He looked good in the air as well.
Yeah.
Didn't score a touchdown, but as good as. I think he scored me 20
Yeah.
points in this league, and he was sitting on my
Wow.
bench. Another guy who scored me 20 points was AJ Dillon. He was also on the bench last week.
Yeah. He got a
Wouldn't
lot
have
of
made
targets last week, which was he led the
lot.
Packers in targets last week, I think.
I think that was something they were
Which is
talking about.
crazy.
Yeah, six targets. That's right, five or six targets.
Yeah.
And I think that's something they were talking about is sort of typecasting him as someone who's only a runner because of obviously his stature, but saying that he's incapable in the running game, in the receiving game, and Aaron Jones is the better play in Green Bay, and yada 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 yada. But hold strong. If you can see what's happening in front of you, then you can see that he's the guy who's going to be taking over, and he's also against the Bears, also a possible shout.
Yeah, definitely. The Bears are terrible. I'm shocked they won last week, but again, you can't take too much from that. And then also, I'm like, well, maybe just Matt Nagy was really, really, really bad. The Bears aren't that bad.
I think Bears fans will be able to answer that better than I will, but I would be more inclined to say yes. But the Bears last week, they were pretty solid in defense. I think that was definitely what won them the game. Couple of sacks, loads of tackles from their D linemen, from their linebackers. So that's one thing that kind of I'm thinking about in starting Dillon. I'd be more inclined to go with Gibson, but again, their linebacker core is pretty good. Defensive line looks good. It's a tough call, but at this point in time, I would probably put Gibson in into that spot. 1, 2, 3, Bazam. And then, but then that I think that flex is going to be a match day decision.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on what news comes out on the day, you can switch in and out.
Yeah, and Dillon playing the late game, I'll be in bed by then, so I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait to find out. But yeah, and then I think that kicker, I would probably be inclined to stick with Evan McPherson unless he's drastically dropped.
Yeah. Imagine. I think they need to drop the long snapper if anything. McPherson wasn't too much to blame.
Well, I think long snapper was a tight end.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a tight end covering because the long snapper was injured.
That will explain it, right?
Yeah.
Are they still injured?
I'm not sure, but I do have to look into that for obvious reasons because that's why the snaps are high, and I think one of them was too slow, one of them was too high. So so he will come out if that is the case. Otherwise, I have the options of Tyler Bass against the Titans.
Yep.
I think the secondary in Tennessee is probably going to concede a lot of touchdowns to the Bills this week, so I'd probably be more inclined not to play him. Do you want to see something cool?
Yeah, obviously.
It's a lawnmower. Just
just a rogue lawnmower.
Just self-driving.
Wow.
Parks away when
that's definitely a first of the Dynasty Hotseat, and I don't think we'll ever see another lawnmower going by in the background.
Oh, good. Okay, so and then I think I'd be more inclined to start Cade York ahead of Tyler Bass, which is why I picked him up. Again, my fear is that if McPherson has a confidence blip or is dropped, I can actually afford not to start him this week at all. I don't have to take the risk and find out. And then that leaves me with a choice of defense for the week, which is either the Eagles against the Vikings or the Packers against the Bears. And I think you know what I'm going to do here.
Yeah, I think we're about to see some sleeper magic pop up any second now.
1, 2, 3, bazoom. There we go.
Oh, that's so quick. I'm so impressed, sleeper. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, just like, and look at that. We've kind of come full circle right back to your first tip of the show, and it's you putting in that Green Bay Packers defense to face off against the Chicago Bears. And we can now just scroll all the way back up, Alex, and let's have a little look at the team you're expecting to play in week number 2. You got Matthew Stafford in at quarterback, Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb locked in at the running back position, Cooper Kupp and Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver, Pat Freiermuth, and then we've got Antonio Gibson in the flex spot, Jared Goff in the super flex, Evan McPherson in there for now, a kicker. We'll have to wait and see what happens with a long snapper. And then as their defense, the Green Bay Packers, 100% victory guaranteed, Alex, right?
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're all rooting for you over here at Dynasty Hotseat as well. And we'll flick back into this view as well. And Alex, just want to say thank you so much for coming on again to the show and letting everybody know hints and tips for week number 2. And yeah, it's great. I can't believe it. You know what? 6 months ago, first guest on, we're right back again. We're still running the show, still certified Inferno. Don't even know if I had that tagline back then, but it's going so well. And just thank you so much for all the help that you've given me over this last couple of months. And always welcome back on anytime. And just for you guys listening, the Hall of Flame, don't know if you know about it. Make sure you're giving this video on YouTube a thumbs up. Let's see if we can get Alex onto this Hall of Flame. The more thumbs up he gets, the more chance he's got to get in there. He's got to get up to 3rd place in thumbs up, and then he'll overtake Kev, the Dynasty GOAT, if he can do that. So we really appreciate that. Subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you're following Alex over on Twitter at Dynasty Guru NFL. And Alex, any closing comments for the listeners?
Don't play in a league with Connor because he cheats.
Yes, that is sound advice. So thank you for listening, everybody. Don't trust me. Listen to only what Alex says. I'm just full of it. So thanks for listening, and hopefully all our teams do well this week. And see you very, very soon.